shouldn't be overwhelming if you allow it.
Okay, so then that will be 8.
So then, so with that question, the direction you want to kind of uncover is energy, kind of focus, energy.
Okay, focus.
Is that accurate, Jeff? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, a lot of this, all of this, actually really ties into your mental state. Yeah. Like, how strong are you mentally? Like, almost all of these questions kind of go back to that, you know? And what is that process to keep your mind exercised like a fine-tuned athlete, you know? A lot of these guys, a lot of these successful guys are actually athletes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was what, there was a question I didn't write and give you, and it was related to athletic background, and especially related to team sports, where
here, you can modify this then. I have I'll take out your stud, but I have, how does fitness play in your life, and how do you stick to it?
And you could actually just do some background there.
But how does fitness play into your life and correlate with your business?
Did you grow up playing sports? How do you, because it's going to be yes, is I imagine, and then.
Yeah, he played college volleyball, from what I understand.
Okay, and then do you apply those lessons that you learned as an athlete to today, and how does fitness play a part in your life now?
Yeah, we could even kind of take that a step further and just go directly to the point of getting at, you know, which lessons do you apply that you learned or developed? You know?
Do you want to? I'll put this down for you. Fitness. Yeah. You can phrase it how you want.
I'll play around with that. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be in a flow by then anyway. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's.
And that'll be around. That'll be 8, Jeff, that you got.
What about meditate? Do you want to tie meditation into what motivates you and the energy?
Oh yeah, the other one I have here, Mick, you can say number 9. What books do you read on a regular basis? And then, I kind of like this a little bit, but
wait, where's the fitness one? Is that 9?
9. Oh, 9 is fitness.
Okay.
Books is 10. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to get clear.
Okay.
And then I had a question. It's been said that being an entrepreneur can be lonely. Do you prefer working alone, or do you find it helpful to have an accountability partner
or a team?
It'll be 11.
11, and that can be me, I guess, right? And then the last one was, do you meditate? And that's just, I mean, that doesn't really need to be asked, but.
That's an auxiliary.
Yeah.
If needed, if we need a filler.
Yeah.
And I might be stepping out at noon because I got to catch a flight. FYI.
All right, I'm going to text him real quick.
Yep.
So 11 is, let's see, Jeff. And meditate is the 12 maybe.
So Max, what we're doing here is we have a show that we produce. Started out about probably a year ago now, and we interview successful entrepreneurs or
leaders in their field,
thought leaders, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So we have a bunch of questions. We sit around, we bullshit with them, and we try to take some lessons from them. And the idea is to share these lessons with others. You know.
Where does it air?
Well, right now it's not being aired, but right now we use Google Hangouts, so it's being cataloged. But we're going to figure out that process.
We're developing the content, is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are like hour-long things, and we interview some really big names. And we actually did one in here in this studio right here. And do you know who Reverend Michael Beckwith is?
No.
So he was in the movie The Secret, and he has a huge church. It's a spiritual center. It's not like a religion. It's more of a how do you exist in this realm? You know? And he's an amazing guy. Wasn't that an amazing interview?
Yeah, Beckwith, I love that. That was what was so fun. Like literally the next week, my wife's sitting on the couch watching an interview that Oprah did on Super Soul Sunday, I think is her show, with Beckwith. And she's like, man, this guy is fascinating. I was like, oh yeah, we interviewed him last week. She's like, no, you didn't. It's like,
did you pull it up? Let her watch it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I let her
It's
watch.
way better.
I think so. I mean, I think we have a different, kind of context that comes with us anyway. But
do you know, it's so funny. I got a text from my editor that lives in Hawaii, and so I called him and we talked. And he said, "Oh, I'm just finishing up a book." And I go, "Oh, really? What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm ghostwriting a book for Michael Beckwith." I go, "Oh my God." He is my. I interviewed Michael Beckwith, and now my editor is writing a book for him, and my publishers publish him. What?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I think the world is going to continue to seem smaller and smaller, like people-wise, but more expansive, like possibility-wise.
Yeah.
Things are quickening considerably. Well, like our deal,
also,
we got a deal. OMG is in business right now with Ty Lopez and with a guy named Alex Mayer, who was the founder of a dating app called Zeusk, who's run like $800 million worth of Facebook ads. And so we're putting a program out with them next. We should launch next month. I was at Ty's mansion for a mastermind. Like, there's just, bigger and bigger doors get opened all the time. As long as you're competent and, you see the value in this stuff and you don't get stuck in dogma.
And you know what? Big doors are just as easy to open as little doors.
Yeah.
It takes much energy. So go for the big ones. That's what she said.
Hey, he's texting me back right now.
Oh, yeah.
3 minutes. Hey, Max, one of the things I was hoping that you could work on, you got a copy of the marketing plan or the marketing.
I have a business plan.
Right. You have that. I don't even know what to call it.
Like the template?
The template that I can't remember. What was her name?
Pizza?
No, not these.
Deborah.
Deborah. You have that, right? So if you could continue working that out, but one of the things I thought you'd be good at, since you obviously already know what you've done and have added your stuff to the website, is flesh out on who our avatar is.
Okay.
Like get as much information. He's 35-year-old. Does he have kids? What books does he read? Does he work out? Who do you envision is our avatar?
Okay.
That'd be super helpful.
Sounds good.
Hey, can I tell Fletch something?
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of those slides are blurry. Did you notice that in the PDF?
No, but I'll check it out.
Check it out for me, because I do have it. I have an investor link now on the website, just in case people want looking at it. Am I?
Okay. I can also clean it up so you can add a better one.
Okay. Cool.
Hey, Fletch, I just want to tell you that the reason I'm here is that yesterday I had a. Oh, he's back. He's here.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Eddie.
I lost track of time. I was sitting there. I was on a phone call, and I got your text. So I appreciate the text message.
I'm glad that was your cell. I didn't even know.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining us. We got a unique situation. Usually Mick's got his own computer, but he just traveled in for a pretty cool meeting, actually. So he's traveling light. So we're sharing a screen. So it looks a little weird, but we'll make it work.
Hey, what's up? How are you? Nice to meet you.
All right. So here what I'll do is I'll kind of introduce who we are so you know who you're talking to, and then we'll let you introduce yourself. That's sort of how we usually start. But last time we talked, you asked what I did. I didn't really tell you. But I'm a producer and an entrepreneur. I have 3 restaurants in Los Angeles and a club, technically speaking. It's called Scum and Villainy. It's a Star Wars themed bar. So geeks who like to drink. Yeah.
I love it.
You got to come out and check it out. So that's me. Fletch, I'll give a little bit about Fletch. It was about, I don't know, how long ago was it, Fletch, that you got involved in OMG?
2013.
Okay, so the story that sticks out in my mind to introduce Fletch is he was literally doing, was it air conditioning work?
Yeah, I was a general contractor, but I was fixing people's duct work in attics.
In their attics in Arizona. I mean, talk about a rough place to spend time. And then got into internet SEO and marketing, and has become very, very successful. He's with a group called One Man Gang. Are you familiar with them, Ed? OMG?
Sounds awesome, though.
Okay, so that's Fletch. Fletch, you want to add anything about who you are?
It sums it up. I got 3 kids. I live in Phoenix. In addition to that, I have a marketing agency, primarily does SEO here in Phoenix, and now this project, kind of the third leg on the table of building understanding. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Cool.
And then Mick, who now goes by M. Sean Petersen, wrote the next Harry Potter. It's already been picked up by
Beyond Words. They're the publisher of the book The Secret.
You might have heard of that.
Yeah, great, man. Great.
Phil's our Oscar winner and Emmy winning producer.
I love it. What's up, Phil?
Sorry, that's a possibility.
Okay, when you're done.
Okay. You going to talk to me? I think he wants to talk to me. Should I step out?
Yeah, you can step out.
I'm going to step out. I'll be right back. You guys carry on.
Okay. Anyway, so Mick just got his book being published by the publishing house of The Secret, and we plan on making that movie.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's who we are. So why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yeah, fantastic. So I'm Ed O'Keefe, father of 7 out of the South Side of Chicago, and kind of I don't know if I'm a serial entrepreneur, but I've started and entered a lot of different markets that I knew nothing about. Have written a couple books, and now I'm sought out, especially like for people in the health market, if they have supplements, foods, info experts, learning traffic online, and I run a health supplement company. So got a lot of things going on, but yeah, I mean, entrepreneur, love being around people, love helping people, love learning, and still I'm an investor in No Foods. That's KNOW foods.com. That's a gluten-free, grain-free, dairy-free, non-GMO, all those amazing things business that I'm pretty involved with right now. And then when I'm not doing entrepreneur stuff, I'm chasing around a bunch of kids. I had 2 walk in while we started here. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. We have 7 kids under the age of 13. And the twins are 4. So it goes 13, 12, 11, 10, 6.5, and then 4-year-old boy and girl twins. So
we're very fortunate. I have 2, and I can only imagine having 7. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
My wife didn't want that many. So Mick would be very interested in No Foods. I'm actually a user of it myself. I love it. I eat it almost every day. And they keep adding new stuff. So I just got their cereal. Haven't had it yet. Is it good? Have you had it?
I've not had cereal yet. My favorites are the waffles, chocolate chip waffles, and then the cookies are amazing, but the wraps are, in my opinion, amazing because I love tacos. So, but yeah, I think there's a big thing happening now. I think like the consciousness of health in general, the market's trying to fix the food, like the food industries, they're trying to fix it, and so there's a lot of things we're working on that in my own supplement company and health company that we're kind of mapping out of different directions we might want to go. Because, as a parent, solving that issue with your own children and someone who I grew up in a family, it's kind of crazy. And I don't even know if I'm supposed to, but I grew up in a family of 13 kids. I'm 12th of 13. My dad was an electrician and my mom stayed home. It was amazing, but we literally, I don't want to say live paycheck to paycheck, but, my parents can answer that better. But we were happy to have tomato soup, grilled cheese, pasta, pizza. Like that was our life, and I still love a good pizza, but pasta I can't stomach at all for all the reasons. And so then re-engineering our habits is just is a challenge. It's very challenging, to create a new environment. So that's something we're working on here.
Oh, it's good stuff. You don't eat pasta because you had so much of it in your youth, or because your body doesn't.
Yeah, not like I don't know about you, but like now that I'm older, I'm 42 now, but like 42 and a half is like I'm very much more sensitive to gluten, and I could tell when I have it like what it does to my body. And then so there's certain foods now that I can immediately feel like the insensitivity is hitting my body. And most people know, like most white, anything that's white, processed foods, when it breaks down in your body, it not only has, you know, all these oxidants, but it's also sugar. So I don't know the full science behind all that, but yeah, some of those I'm just noticing as I get older, the things that I used to be able to get away with when I was 29, just physically will drain my energy and some, you know, whatever. I think we're going off of tangents, but anyhow, you know.
All right, I'll pull us on track. Okay, so we know you're an entrepreneur. We're fans. So how do you start your day, and how do you organize it to make sure you stick to it?
Yeah, good question. I think like how I started my day probably 10 years ago is definitely ridiculously different now. And that's why I think it is interesting to look at. There's no one way, but I would say that like now, or before when we only had one child, or even when I was single, like the biggest thing was I got up, I knew my 1 or 2 priorities that usually involved what was the most important thing to attack, like usually revenue generation or some kind of value creation, and or solving the blockages that fit in there. And I think great book on this is The One Thing. You know, I can't remember who wrote that, but I don't know about you, but like if I have too many priorities, then I have no priorities. But now it's sort of how I begin my day is really primarily family focused, meaning getting the kids up, getting them to school. After I do that, I train for an hour. I usually do CrossFit. If I have a window of time, I will utilize it. But usually my day, I know it's kind of crazy, does not really start from a work perspective till about 10:30. And then it goes till about 4. Will I take phone calls? Will I do certain things? Yeah. So, but afterwards or before, sure. But not when I'm training. And then the secret to keeping on track is obviously, and this is something I think you guys probably could relate to, is like, I heard a great quote yesterday. They said if 98% clarity or 100% clarity on what you're trying to focus on is exponentially more effective than 98% clarity. And it kind of hit me because you know, like right now, even we have a couple of priorities where or opportunities and strategic initiatives we're looking at, but they're separate. Like they're not synergistic. Could they both make money? Can they both have all those things? Yeah. But since there's that, well, am I focusing on this or that or this today? What ends up happening is there's a cognitive dissonance where you kind of aren't doubling down, quadrupling down on one thing. So I would say A is probably first thing to do is if like someone who's watching this needs to create value for themselves or they feel the same way, is probably write down every single thing that you think is important that you need to get done. And it might take 20 minutes to just brain dump a lot of this stuff out. What I always recommend to people is look at, okay, what is the lowest hanging fruit that already has momentum and that will impact my short-term cash flow? Okay, that's usually filter number 1, because a lot of times people are like thinking from a cash flow perspective. Or if that's not even any concerns, then what is the big picture thing that can be the grand slam that's on your plate? And from there, you can do the basic level. Everyone's probably been learning this is just, you know, ABC or here's my top 3 priorities, list out the blockages. And from there, you can categorize all your specific action steps. So that right there, I know it's a big chunk, but that's very, very simple. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. Do I think that having clarity on your top 3 and knowing where you're going puts you ahead of the majority of the rest of the pack? Yes. And in my businesses, what those top 3 usually boil down to are something to do with traffic to traffic to some kind of optimization of a customer experience, which equals revenue generation. That's usually in our business. And what I found is for online businesses anyhow, that is your biggest fulcrum. And it's the highest leverage thing that requires the least amount of people and is scalable by adding more budget and more traffic versus more human beings to do more work, you know. And that's why in our coaching business, in our seminar business, we're doing a lot of stuff around traffic mastery and e-commerce optimization, because those are the 2 power skills for most e-com people.
When you started off with You were in the dental field first, correct?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, before that, I was in the I had some manuals and trainings on mental toughness for athletes. Like it's how I first got into internet marketing or marketing, and then it transitioned because I was like, wait a second, I need to do something that has the potential of paying a little more than $49 to like predominantly a broke audience. And there's a lot of lessons in there, by the way. But then I transitioned into the dental space. I knew nothing about it. And very quickly, at a very young age, we were doing very well. We became, my little coaching business became one of the leaders in coaching for dentists regarding marketing and advertising. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's see here. Fletch, you want to go with number 2?
Yeah, no, this it actually kind of you lobbed me a nice pitch here with what you've been talking about, but I'd like to know a little bit more about how you think about really like navigating priorities. The other day I was watching a movie that just came out called All the Money in the World about John Paul Getty. Yeah. And so there's a quote, whether he said it or not, it's in the movie, and a man who has children gives hostages to fortune. Right. And so to me, watching that, I got kids, and I understand that there are times when they are number one priority. They're kind of always number one priority, but there's also a certain amount of things I need to do professionally or romantically with my wife or relationship wise as an entrepreneur, whatever it might be, or else, I could just sit around and watch them all day long and nothing ends up getting done. Right. It sounds like your family situation you grew up in, there may have been some limitations there as well. So I don't know. Could you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah. Thanks for great question. I don't know if I have a great answer, but I'll give you my perception. So like I grew up in a family where like my dad worked 40 hours so that he had the opportunity to work another 20 hours at time and a half. Right. And so at a very young age, I don't know exactly, I think it was in college, but I realized that what really attracted me to being an entrepreneur, especially like online marketing or direct response marketing, was this like idea that I could have time and money leverage. Okay. So that's number one. So that's huge. I think most people avoid that. I still think like I've heard a couple people like they talk about getting a job and I'm going to get my degree to get a job. And that always makes me cringe because it's why are you doing that? Like, I mean, there's so many things behind that, but to really go more to your question and comments is, I think it's really healthy, whether it's a man or a woman who has children, for their children to see that their dad or their mom goes and hunts and gathers and puts food on the table. Like it's okay. Like they don't, even though they're in the other room, just coincidentally here today, I think it's really, really important. Like when cash flow is tight, then your number one priority has to be to raise the cash flow. You have to, because otherwise you're gonna be sitting there with your kids and your wife or husband or whatever, and you're thinking about money rather than being present with your children, right? So that's number one. I think there's different seasons of life. I think what I would always question, like especially like men, because I'm not a woman, so I'll keep it to men, is just make sure you question your stories you're telling yourself about why you need to go on the next trip or why you need to be gone again or why you need to be working late. Are you being as effective as you need to be? Are you in the right relationships? Not romantically, but in business. Are you focused on the biggest leverageable opportunities in your business? Are you in the right business model, right? Do you have the right mentors? Like all those things I think are really good, what I would call like layered questions to question, like, because it takes the same time and energy to work on a level 1 opportunity as it does maybe a level 8, 9, or 10. Now, you may have a different position in it. Like, so for example, I don't want to be a CEO of a company that's trying to become a $1 billion disruptor, like to grow to, like, I don't want to be the CEO of No Foods, right? I don't want to work 10 to 12 hours a day. That's a decision I'm making, right? But I can be an investor. I could drive online customers. I can bring it back to my unique abilities, okay? So that's number one. Number two. Number three is I had something I wanted to share here. here's what I want to share. I got this advice from legendary, self-help expert and sales trainer, Brian Tracy. It always stuck with me. And he said that soft time will always be pushed and moved by hard time. Let me explain that. So if I say like, okay, I'm going to work out at 9 a.m. Well, guess what? Nothing is scheduled at 9 a.m. You can't schedule a call at 9 a.m. because guess what? I'm working out from 9 to 10. Okay. And so the challenge is that if you really want to be home and be present with your kids at say 5 or 6 or 7, whatever no judgment on anybody, or with your spouse, we have to start treating that as hard time and inflexible time in 90% plus of those cases. I mean, there's always exceptions, right? There's always exceptions to that rule, right? If your friend calls you, they need something and it's a rare thing. But what I found is that people who bend over for everything are usually bent over by everybody. And so, so that's kind of how I manage it. And I'll share you one more thing. Like this morning, I was taking one of my daughters to school, and I was thinking about like from a priority perspective, how I've personally like put my workouts as a non-negotiable thing. And when I do that, my life is just better, right? It's always easier to like to skip those workouts because you have so much to do. But you know, you're going to be trading that off eventually. And I kind of believe the same thing is about your kids and your families. Like you can push off every day. Tomorrow will be different, but you got to create some hard value structures that only you can do. Like you as whoever's listening to this, whatever, this is your life, not mine. And it's definitely not any of ours. Right. So if it's winning, like, so I have friends that travel way more than I would like, or, you know, even I feel like when I see how much they're traveling, I'm like, shit, man, well, when are you home with your kids or with your spouse? But then I got to check myself and I got to be like, well, who am I to judge that? I mean, that's just what they're doing. So it's definitely an individual journey. But I also look at those types of things when I look for who am I taking advice from. I'll give you one more example and then we can move on. Cause I think this is a really important question. I think this is a great question. And because I don't think there's a phenomenal, hopefully these are good answers to it, or at least frameworks. I listen to some really well-known successful gurus out there right now, and I can name their names. It would be inappropriate. And I listen to the advice they give when it comes to family. And I think to myself how sad it is that they're giving that advice to people because it's such wrong, detrimental advice to somebody who's actually seeking counsel or advice. Like if I say to you like, well, hey, you know, Jeff, you gotta work till midnight every night for the next year, and you're completely missing time with your family or kids, well, you're never gonna get that year back, right? And so I think the model, you can change a lot of things, but you know, one thing you can't change is time is moving on. So obviously I have some opinions on that, but hopefully I kept it somewhat open framed, you know.
Wow, that was awesome, actually. Okay, so we'll move to the next question here. There seems to be a common thread with successful entrepreneurs. What do you think that thread is?
Well, I mean, okay, so that's kind of, I feel kind of humbled to even answer this. So let me just say this. The people who I'm most impressed with definitely have an internal motivation and drive that they start asking the questions that are different than most people, which are usually, oh, cool, I see that. How do I go get that? And, oh crap, here's the gap. I'm trying to see where my hands are. Here's where I'm at now. Here's where that is. And the difference between people who pursue that and then wake up here is that they don't think that there is like, I was listening to a guy who's super successful say, like just yesterday, like it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of how long it's going to take me to figure this out, or how long and how much money. And he's like, I'll figure it out. And I've heard Jesse Itzler, a good friend of mine, say, it's never a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. Like the movie's already there. Now we just have to backfill all the roads to get there, or I mean, talking to producers, this is great. But like you now got to like backtrack all the storyboard. And as the storyboard changes, you have to evolve and change with it. Now, with that, so that means that you have to be, that we have to be extremely comfortable and I see this with high level athletes. I'm sure you see this with high level, like just high level talent, like even in movies or whatever, is that they have an ability to go into a state of total confusion and be completely okay with it and be completely frustrated and then be like, and like, I'm okay being frustrated. It means that doesn't mean I stay in frustration, but it means that this is what's motivating me to work, because I see that I don't know so much of this stuff. Most people, that's where they stop. That's where they stop. Like, okay, well, no one in my circle of friends has ever done this, so that means it's not possible. Well, no. I think that what's very true about successful people is they go, the first question is like, all right, well, if it's possible, who's done it? Or what about, like, how do I go get time with this person? How can I get face-to-face? What do I attend a seminar, get consulting 101, read their book, go to the library and read books? You know, when I was broke early on, I used to go to the library. I mean, people don't even know what the library is anymore, but I used to go to the library, and they had like Brian Tracy audio tapes, they had Napoleon Hill audio tapes, they had Tom Peters, they had all these cool things, Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I would just digest that stuff every single day. I'd watch Oprah because she would have guests on. I'm like, this is personal development training for me, you know? So I think the tenacious resolve to find the solutions despite the circumstances or what they perceive as limitations is definitely what they do. Definitely what they do, you know?
When you started out with MD3, did you ever get off track? Like, things start to unravel, you know, you were doing this by yourself, right? You're self-funded, you started this, you mapped this out on your own. In the beginning, how did you stay on track with this?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, okay, great question. So I hired a couple consultants, and I mean, so what Jeff's asking me about is one of my health supplement products, Marine D3. We launched it. We've sold, God, I think around 700,000 bottles and counting. It still exists today. It's great, phenomenal product. We started out, I'll tell you exactly. I mean, there's so many stories I can tell you, but like, we started out in direct mail, and by all direct mail standards, we were successful. But and all the people I surrounded myself with were direct mail people. But the advice I was giving was, hey, we're successful in direct mail, but and I don't know if this is too advanced, but like my cash flow cycle was 6 to 8 weeks, meaning it took me 6 to 8 weeks to get my money back when I would drop it, because postage costs money. And then you have list rentals, you have printing. And so to scale that type of business, and I'm pretty aggressive when it comes to marketing, you got to be back in the mail to go. Like, so if we mailed, say 30, I think I'll give you an example. I think we sort of started out like mailing like 60,000 pieces. I think we jumped up to 120,000, then 250,000. And then within like a year, we were mailing over 800,000 pieces, right? And what I didn't realize was that the more I mailed, the more my cash got sucked up because of the cash flow cycle, right? Now, there's ways to solve that. I was self-learning on that journey. And yeah, my zigzag was I started testing stuff online. And everybody's advice was, this is kind of like supplements really weren't selling online except for like free trials and stuff like that. But everybody's advice was like, oh, online customers are bad customers. Like, this literally was only, gosh, 8 years ago. And this is what all these guys believe. Like, no, the online customers are not as good. They refund more. It's just a bunch of BS, right? Belief systems. And I had to zig and go online. To share another kind of horror story was the day that my fulfillment center decided to just shut their doors, turn off their phones, and go out of business. And like, this was going on. So all of a sudden I'm getting letters from the Attorney General. I'm getting Better Business Bureau hammered. And the mistake I made, like to take ownership of it, is we allowed the fulfillment center to provide us. This is how a lot of fulfillment centers do, is they provide you with the 800 numbers, like as a value add. Well, then they have control over it, you know? And so if you ever do that, if anyone's like doing that, just make sure you have control over the customer support number, because no one could get a hold of our customer support. And these guys went out of business, you know? So that was like another, I mean, there's been multiple times I got sued by a $1 billion company because I had a tech guy on my team sign a contract that was absolutely ridiculous for like $1 million. We didn't need 90% of what he signed us up for. I mean, so yeah, have I dealt with my fair share of things? Heck yeah. I think that the way, that doesn't mean you like, so let me answer this. It's one thing I didn't bring up. I think that when you start equating like what's some of my secrets to success, but that's self-indulgent. So I'll bring it back to your question of like, what's the criteria and habits of highly successful entrepreneurs, is that they all seem to have a belief system that they are meant for something. They're capable and they're destined to do more, like impact more, be more, you know, and whatever that more might be. But they, like, if you ask a group of people, like, do you ever feel like you were I think this is why you guys do the show. Like, how do we impact more people? How do we create value for more people? How do we, you know, whatever that answer might be. But people feel that, especially with forward thinking, high consciousness, entrepreneurial types. And when I say entrepreneurials, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be whatever, but like athletes, like I'm sure actors and actors, like people that are just trying to be better, right? It's a different psychology and view of the world. They feel that. And then number two is, and this came from like the Napoleon Hill's book, is they really, really believe, like we had something happen today inside our businesses where, you know, something had to get turned off, like, which brings us money. And, you know, I said to one of my team members, look, I absolutely guarantee you that something really positive is going to come out of this. We just got to be patient and think through a couple things. That doesn't mean you stop or quit. Like like you could be on a certain, you could be on the wrong lane. So yes, you may need to stop your business model or change it or learn a different skill set. Like, I'm not saying keep doing the same stupid stuff. But when all those things happen, specifically, I can tell you when the fulfillment center thing happened, I remember vividly where I was at. I was in my backyard. I was on my computer, and I literally just I made a phone call to a really good friend of mine, and then I went for a walk around the block. And when I went around the block, only thing I said to myself was, I'm going to figure this out. I'm destined to do great things. Like, I gave myself the pep talk. I didn't MF anybody else. I don't have time for that. Like, this is just forging the diamond that's showing up. And what sucks is when you see some people who are 10 years younger than you, or some people that are 10 times richer than you, and you're like, damn, I'm smarter than that person. And maybe they just hit a different, like, tailwind at a different timeline, and they're on their own journey. But you can't, and you believe that. So you have to just keep plugging away. At least that's how my psychology is, you know?
Did you ever end up, because a lot of people out there, you know, obviously they're driven by finance. Did you ever get yourself into a place where you're like, oh shit, you know, my burn rate now is at a place where I'm nervous? Whether you thought through the process or not, did you ever get down there and have that in your mind, like, woo, this is tough?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, first of all, I think that the misconception is growth equals profit, right? So I've had a lot of that's why you got to be careful with certain consultants, because what they see as a successful thing, because you're growing in revenue, that doesn't necessarily mean there's cash flow or profit. Those are two different things. So, you know, you could be like, when we did 28 million one year with our supplement company, it was also the most volatile. The way we did it with the traffic partners that we had, it was one of the most volatile years, like stressful years. It wasn't fun, you know. And now with hopefully more experiential wisdom, those types of blockages in relationships and speed, like I made a lot of decisions based on this idea of being, you know, hitting 30 million. That's a wrong decision process, you know. I think it's like, you know, as Jeff Bezos says, he always gets the question like, well, what's the new thing you guys are working on? And he says, well, our question is not what's the new thing, but what's the thing that's still going to be here in 10 years, and how do we become the best at it? And I think that's a really more mature question, and I think it's a question that I could have used a friend around that time who would have slowed me down a little bit, specifically in that time period.
Okay.
I think, Jeff, because one thing I want to add in there is like I think there's a lot of value in this like massive, simultaneous, rapid action mindset. But I also believe that unless you're willing to pivot quickly or make decisions or change directions based on data and what you're seeing, you can also, it's very hard to unravel a lot of horrible decisions. So I would just suggest to people like dream big and go big, but also focus on your circle of friends and the people around you and build a team, or make sure things are covered before you just start throwing crap and just moving forward without knowing the facts. You know,
that's some good advice right there. That alone, I think a lot of us tend to do that, and I'm guilty of it myself. Where you just
we all are, right? Yeah,
start going. You know, Fletch, you got number 4.
Yeah, so I'll try to actually make this somewhat understandable outside of my own brain, but like I watched some of the videos I found of you online. Some were presentation style, some were like interview style. One specifically that stuck out was when you were talking to Roland Frazier, and it was apparent to me that you had a lot of natural curiosity, that you really wanted to understand how he saw certain things. That, along with kind of the sense of closure of understanding, okay, I now know enough to go act on this thing.
Yeah.
What's your process for understanding where that threshold is to say, okay, I've asked enough questions now so that I can kind of close this and act on it, versus I need to ask more questions before I've taken away that failure condition or that block that would have been here had I acted previous?
So great question. I understand it fully. So really the question is like, well, how do you ask, you find a model, right? So I'm talking to models. That's why we do a lot of like, interviews or podcasts or whatever. So you get opportunity to get a lot of different frameworks of the world, right? And usually in my book, Time Collapsing, which I think I still give away free with shipping and handling at timecollapsing.com, I walk through the different ways of modeling. And there's a few different ways to approach it. But excuse me. Definitely, like what most people focus on are the actual tactics of a model, and that's one way you can learn. I always use the example like in sports. If you physically showed me something and I physically did it, and then you kept repping me out like in a sequence, my neurology will pop out the sequence in the chain. And the belief systems sometimes get ingrained after the physical occurs, right? So like if I said, hey, the 4 of us are gonna go to this cliff, like where these stairs are, right? And and I want to talk to you about mental toughness. And we start just walking up the damn stairs that are this, we come down, and all of a sudden in 7 minutes, your heart's pumping, your body's fight or flight kicked in. And you're like, WTF is that doing to us? And then we push to a threshold of like, say, 25 minutes, and you kept going. And now man, I really need to freaking stop. Like, I really need to stop. But you keep going. And then all of a sudden around 29 minutes, maybe 32 minutes, your body acclimates in a way that you've never experienced before. And all of a sudden we sit there, we look at each other and we go like, man, we could do this shit all day long, can't we? And all of a sudden, you're like, yeah, an hour and a half goes by, and yeah, it was hard, it sucked, but you're like, holy crap, your whole awareness of the world just shifted. So that's one way to go from like a physical to like a mental shift, okay? Now, a lot of times what happens is when you do interviews, you start off with like a mental, you're trying to map out the model of their world. And usually that comes by listening for how they see themselves, what they refer themselves as. When you listen to the criteria when they speak, you'll hear their value systems. Like someone could watch this back right now, and they could be like, well, here's Ed's value systems. Then I would say, can you prioritize my value systems? Well, if you listen to how I prioritize my days and stuff, you probably could. What's up, Eddie? And now you see like my kid jumps in to hang out.
Hey.
Yeah. Eddie, you say hi?
What's up, Eddie?
Eddie, say hi to everybody.
Hey.
What's up, Eddie?
Yeah, he's tired. I can tell he's tired. It's around nap time. But anyhow, so then, what's that?
He doesn't have school?
They used to go like two and a half hours a day in the morning.
Got it.
He just got back from lunch with his mom. But so I got value systems, and I'm kind of giving you guys a criteria of importance as we go. So I look for identity, because if somebody says something about themselves, like, well, I am X, then you can start like, I'm a beast. I can handle anything hard. Well, what must their value systems might be? What were their belief systems? And then what are their behaviors when things get hard? And then you go like, then you could even like push into their past and go like, well, what experiences must they have gone through for them to even create that identity, right? And so I start mapping that stuff out as much as I can. Now that's a little more advanced, but it's not hard. It's just a matter of learning, right? I listen to language patterns. I listen to self-talk. I listen for all that stuff, right? Now, one thing specifically with Roland in that interview, which anyone can see on YouTube, is when I start talking about business and relationships and how they scale, he starts doing these things with his hands. He's like, well, I see it this is literally what he says, and I haven't listened to it in a while. But he says, I see it as kind of I don't know if he said like a matrix or a map, where like all these lights are just bouncing up, and he's using his hands like this to like describing the map in front of him. And he's like, I'm always trying to figure out how to connect the one thing over there to the one thing here to the one thing here. And so one of the things he then went through was, okay, well, if we're going to scale a business, the first question I ask is, okay, who already has what we're trying to build, and how do we go cut a deal with them? Well, that's a pretty strategical thought process, and frankly, it's pretty tactical. Now, you don't know the specifics of the deal, but we're all smart guys. So we can either ask them, well, hey, well, how do you cut your deals? Which is, I'll ask that question to people all the time, because everybody's kind of similar, but then they'll fall into, you can just watch Shark Tank and notice patterns in how they cut deals. And then from that, if I literally lay out all this stuff, I just figured out what his value system was. Value system's freedom, because he doesn't put himself in a business or job. His identity is definitely of someone who is up a chunk of level and thinks very wide, very big, as a connector / mogul entrepreneur, right? And so if you looked at all the business deals he's made over the last few years, he's never the primary player in the business. He's always a person who gathers. And then if you need funding, well, he's got a relationship here. If we need mail house delivery, he's got a business over here. If we need content, well, he's got a business relationship here. So if you look at what he's kind of done, he's created, I think, like an 8 or 9 year game plan to put himself into this thing. From a modeling perspective, you'll see he goes to a lot of seminars and stuff like that. Okay, so that's his model, right? Now, so where's the fail-safe? So even with business, like if I want to learn Facebook ads, I go find the mentor, I go find the systems, I go watch the videos. Well, then it still comes back down to the physical, whether it's physical in physical like travel to seminar, go meet with people, ask tons of questions, find a deal to cut. Now I got to figure out how to cut the deal. Or if it's, I got to write an ad, I got to figure out who on the ad is. And now I physically do it. Being a coach and coming from sports background, I see it in my head as, how do I get the full loop in my neurology as quickly as possible so I can identify where all the gaps that I'm missing. And then I usually layer to like, well, who can I go get, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not afraid to fail. I shouldn't say that. I think that's where some of the void happens, where like confusion comes into play and a lot of like frustration. And I really believe that's where you got to push through and just keep moving forward. Because I think a lot of those answers, when you don't know, start showing up by moving forward. Long answer, sorry.
No, it's great.
It's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
It's funny that the next question was, have you ever been scared of failing? You just covered that.
Yeah, but okay, let me address that. I think the answer is all the time, like all the time. I think it'd be silly, like, so I'm not afraid to go, oh, I don't know that, but am I afraid to fail? Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid like that something I do could cause havoc on my family especially, like investing or doing stuff or starting a business. Like, is this a complete colossal waste of time? I guess those are fears, right? Like, should we start this thing? Well, it's a great idea. It's an amazing idea. We can physically do it. Like, this would be awesome if it worked. Yeah, but we could waste 3 to 6 months when we already have good things happening here. So yes, I think those are fears. And I think the secret, I really believe the secret of this is that you really need to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who care about you, and who want nothing from you. Meaning, like I have people I can ask questions to that, like, they're going to give me their perceptions, and I could either take it or not, but they have nothing to gain by their answers, you know? So, yeah.
Great. Fletch, you want to go down to number 6?
Yeah. So, trying to wind this back into what we've been talking about, what you've been sharing with us. So with one of the quotes or statements you made earlier, like 100% is, you know, radically different than 98% clarity. When you're either building or going to use or develop a framework, a concept, a mindset, like time collapsing, for instance, maybe, how much time and how do you navigate that project of, okay, there's obviously a problem here that needs to be solved, either with myself or out in the world that you notice. And then how does as a marketer, being able to get in front of that market with an offer that solves a problem they already know they have? Like, is there a cycle to that? Is it usually more of a directional thing for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very rare. Like with Sarah Blakely with Spanx, she's kind of an anomaly in the sense that she just knew this was going to work. She knew something like this was going to work, and she knew she was eventually going to figure it out. But that took a while, right? For me, I'll give you one quick example. So I have an idea, a certain superfood that I think would be great because I already do superfoods and I would want them. Well, my first question is, well, who's selling it successfully right now? And then I'll reverse engineer their business model. Like, so I have some certain tools. I'll use SimilarWeb, AdBeat, and I'll look at all their traffic and I'll see like I'm looking for blind spots, right? And I have certain relationships that I know they probably don't have. And it's a big market, it's a growing market, right? So one idea would be, like, for me is, how fast can I get data to validate my idea? Like, how fast can we get this data? And so, like, one idea would be to go to the health food store my friend owns and buy like 15 packs of someone else's product, build a ClickFunnels or someone else's funnel, sell their product on their behalf, and lose money but selling the product to learn, could we run Facebook video ads and sell this product if we had the same product, you know, plus or minus a couple ingredients or something unique. But if we were able to put our marketing mind on this person's product and then create our own product that's similar, but we had our better marketing, that should only cost me a few $100 and maybe $1,000 total to get live and validate an idea. Okay. And so our philosophy always test small and, fail small. Like, you want to test things and fail small. But I'm always looking for what's already working in the market space, that if we, whether it's that category or a similar category. So we have an idea right now. I'm not going to share it with everybody, but like, it's in a big category and nobody's doing it in a certain way, like with what we know for e-com and funnel building and all the traffic sources that I have, that if we did it right, it could be a big win, like huge win. And the downside is very low. So I like those kind of deals to go into. Where's the win really, really big if we hit it? Excuse me. And where's the risk very, very low? So I don't know if I answered your question, and you could clarify some of your question if need be, if you want me to get more specific.
Yeah, no, I think you answered it, not directly, implicitly, with talking about reverse engineering a product in a market that's already in certain ways being served, but also knowing your advantages in ways that you can either come in with a lower cost or a better product or whatever it might be as a marketer, kind of that differentiation. One of the things, maybe if you could just can I give you a quick example?
Yeah. Let's pretend I had like a hair growth thing, like literally, could help me grow this back more, right? Let's say that was what I wanted to do. And let's say I wanted to create like let's say I want to create a comparable to like Dollar Shave Club and Dollar Beard Club, right? And I just want to do some oil or something like that. Well, I would go and reverse engineer those two types of businesses, entire ecosystem, like the ads they wrote, everything like that. And I would then have the same exact sales process. Now the content would be different because it's a different product. It's a different sales pitch, but the themes and the structure and the context would be identical. Like I wouldn't, like, it's just exactly the same. And then we'd run some traffic to it and see what the metrics are, And if you think about it, just for everybody listening, they've already spent the hundreds of millions of dollars optimizing their sales process and their customer process and everything. You are not going to guess and be better than them at that, right? And then, so the next question would be like, well, what is their economic model? Well, okay, they're going to acquire a customer around break even. Do we need to get funding to help grow the business? Or do we need strategic relationships and partnerships with vendors and suppliers that are willing to give us 90-day, 6-month lines of credit in order to grow organically and not take out any, raise any funds, But that's a really good specific example of if I was going to model a certain type of business with a different product, but in the same similar category, that's what I would do.
Once you do that, do you have someone write your copy? Do you have someone, running your Facebook ad strategy and your marketing strategy, or do you come up with it and implement a majority of yourself?
Yeah, great question. So I'm capable of doing all that. So like I might, usually on the sales funnel side, as long as it's not, I would probably write most of that copy. And then, and I would use screenshots and lay it out in like Word documents or, a Gliffy or PowerPoints to show like my designers and my build team what I want it to look like. And the more detail, I found the more detail you can give them with just screenshots. Like I use like on your Mac or like Gene, or I know there's some other, capture things. The more detail, the less you're going to be disappointed when they come back, And then on the Facebook ads, I have some really good, like Ryan Skelly works with me, but I also know some super, super, super high level guys, right? And so I would talk to Skel and I'd be like, hey, look, this is what I'm thinking we need to do. Here's some I always find examples. So I have a swipe file in all my saved Facebook ads. Like I have a swipe file of all these Facebook ads that have a lot of comments, lots of shares that are driving to a product or service that has been around for a long time. I just gave you guys some good criteria, by the way. Like long time, high traffic is where you look. You don't model things because you think it works. You have to have certain criteria. And then, then I would map that out. Then I would hire like a traffic guy like Ryan would run most of our ads. Or if there's certain guys who had experience in a certain niche industry and they already know all the audiences and they already know what they're doing, I would go to them. I might go to them first too. Yeah.
Well, hey, Ed, so sorry that I had to step out, but hey,
it's Hollywood, baby.
Beckoned. So I went.
I'm glad you're here, man. Glad you're here.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back and listen to everything that you said, because I can already tell there's so much value.
Yeah, you missed all the best parts. You missed all.
Okay. So that's a wrap. Thank you. No, the question I have that fascinates me is your mentors, your role models, and do you mentor others? Can you speak to?
Yeah. So I don't know. Hey, Nola Jean, can you just grab me an ice water, please? Sorry, guys. I think that's did I not even mention this in that? Like, I think identifying mentors and peers that are like considered your mentors. Like Jeff's helping me with stuff right now, right? Because he has experience in it. Like I could spend 10 years trying to figure it out, or you go right to somebody who's already doing it, and you're like, hey, man, and you get the download. And number two, yes, I mentor people. Like we have our mastermind groups, we have seminars and stuff like that. And the best investment of time, energy, and money, because really, actually, getting mentored most of the time is just you putting in time and energy to put yourself in the right environments to collaborate or be around somebody, right? Like, and then like I always like, it's like Jesse Itzler's one of my best friends. I consider him a mentor. He's got some amazing events coming up. Like if you guys want to, I don't know, 29029.com. It's like if you climb this mountain 17 times, thank you. It's the same equivalent of Mount Everest, you know? Well, he's my friend, but my wife and I, we paid 10 grand, or that's not that much, but like we paid the amount to go to it. And when I first interviewed him for like a podcast, I didn't know who he was at all. And I was so blown away. I was like, this guy's one of the coolest guys I've ever met. And then I spent the next 6 months creating value for him. Like literally, hey, what are you trying to do? You want to get on more podcasts. I talked to his personal assistant. What are you guys trying to accomplish? Because I knew he was busy, successful, sold Marquis Jets, married to his wife owns Spanx, was co-owner of Zico Coconut Water, sold that. He's part owner of Atlanta Hawks. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. So what I realized was they meaning like his assistant, they were new to this industry, and usually really successful people. This is actually a good lesson. Really, really successful people. There's always, I just got a phone. I was on a phone with a guy who is one of the best traffic guys in the world. And he's asking me advice on how to run a seminar. Like, I mean, this is the silliest thing I ever thought. Like, I mean, this is the most, but he's like, Ed, anything you need, I'll give to you. And he's wanting to pay me and stuff like that. And I kept saying like, no, let me just do this stuff. This is easy for me. So we're kind of trading knowledge to be friends. So my point was like with Jesse, I just identified somebody who I didn't want his knowledge. Of course I want his knowledge. I want osmosis to me, but I just want someone who is like that in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I went and just started introducing his assistant to all the biggest podcasters in the space. Dave Goggins was just on Joe Rogan's show a little bit ago. Well, I introduced Dave Goggins to Joe Rogan through a friend 9 months ago. They probably all forgot that I did the intro. I'm cool with that. It's all good. But my point is that when you meet people that you want to be around and be a part of, you just kind of got to do whatever it takes. And like, so Jesse's been a guy where, now we're co-investors in No Foods. We're friends. And it's happened over 3 years of period of time, I'll share this one little specific, because it goes back to when I was helping on the podcast. I was like, hey, I want to hire him for my event. And his assistant said to me, well, we could probably give you a discount since you've been so helpful. And I responded, no, I don't want a discount. I want to value his time, and I want him to be happy to be there. And since then, I've hired him a couple times. He's allowed me to take my clients to his to Spanx headquarters, to Atlanta Hawks games. And but that was the day, by me valuing his value, that the relationship switched from, okay, here's a guy just kind of doing stuff on the side, to, holy crap, this guy should be in our inner circle of people. Like, I just felt the shift happen. And I want to talk about mentors one more second. Like, there's nothing more unattractive than people private messaging you on Facebook when you're running a seminar saying, hey, can I just stop by? And even though they're like, everybody's friends on Facebook, but even me, like, for every person I allow in the room for free, that means I'm spending $500 of my own money to allow them to come in the room, right? Because by the time I do my production costs, like, the hotel doesn't give a shit if you're my friend and you're there for free. They're charging me. So there's nothing more unattractive than that. And I've always found that the people who, the quickest and easiest way, there's quick and easy ways to do things for free. Like, okay, or to get mentors and relations for free. And I'll tell you what they are. So number one, if I go to 29029 and we're walking up and down a hill and we're both suffering together, despite our economic statuses or whatever our desires are, by the end of it, if you and I have that commonality, you could probably call me anytime for anything, and I will pick up the phone for you. Oh shit, man, this is Jeff from 29029. We suffer together. He's a badass. Like, we just shared an experience, right? If my daughter, who goes to a certain private school, who has dyslexia, right? And if one of the other parents there, it's a school designed for kids with learning disabilities. If one of the parents there was like, Ed, do you mind if I call you and ask you a question? Like, we have a shared commonality that goes beyond like, time for money or any of that shit. Like, you just open it up, right? So those are the free ways to get access to people, is just your social circles and who you make an impact for. You're on the same mission. That's one. Number two is, I guess there's another one. This is kind of a higher level one. Like, people who invest in the same companies together, all of a sudden have the same. There's another. I mean, it costs money to get it, but there's nothing better than to buy your way into circles. Like, and what I mean by that is, hey, there's a seminar about this one topic, and this guy's going to be speaking there, and this is happening. Well, go there, spend whatever it takes to get in the room. And this is where it's funny. People don't understand this one point. Well, no, it's a really expensive seminar or workshop. Even better, because now you just separated yourself from 99.9% of the population, and he or she is there, and you're in a small group. You're going to leave, unless the guy's a total schmuck, like probably like you're now one of his best friends. I mean, this is the way I look at it. So when it goes back to like modeling, and we go like, well, we were talking about like values. I listen for value systems and identity, much more importantly to me than, oh, I want what this guy has. Because if we don't, like, now I'm at an age where like I don't even want anything from anybody unless we have a shared identity or shared value systems, where me making sure that you're happy and you're I want people to be happy and feel like their presence with me made them better over all things, right? So if you and I can't get along, we can't laugh, we can't, whatever. I don't care how successful you are. I just don't want to be in that presence, So, I don't know if that answered it, but
dude, that was awesome.
That was awesome. Thank you.
That was pretty. Let's see here, Fletch. Okay, so we covered that. We're moving. Okay, I think I'm going to skip number 8 because, well, I mean, maybe I won't. So it's a simple question. I know you kind of answered it in about 12 different ways, but what motivates you? And primarily, let's go back when you started out, right? Before you found success and money became a non-stressor in your life, what motivated you to keep moving forward? Was it just self-motivated?
I don't know, man. I don't know, right? So check this out, right? So I got my degree in nursing, played collegiate sports. I always knew I wanted to coach volleyball the rest of my life. And, there was a small phase where I wanted to coach high level, and then whatever. It's kind of a distraction. I remember listening to an audio tape where the guy literally said, I can't remember who it was. It could have been like Earl Nightingale or Dennis Whaley. And they said, you live in America, which now you can translate that across the, we've had globalization since then. You live in America. You can do anything you want with your life. You can do anything you want with your life. And I just remember thinking that because I was a nursing student, and I was about to get my degree, and I was going to go do a job where my observation was so many of these people are just miserable. I was like, what the hell am I going to be doing this for? And going through my head, and I was like, so that's when I became addicted. I became addicted to self-help, like totally became addicted. And I think the one thing I really do thank God for is like I have an internal thermometer that's always curious to learn more and knows that I'm still put here to do something even more impactful, and I have my own criteria on what that might look like. But yeah, very motivated on that. So, and I think other people, like like my last seminar, we had so many good people there speaking that they motivate me. It makes me, I could do better. I can keep, am I squeezing the orange? Am I getting the juice out of life? Am I being a good enough dad? Am I, there's some things like the one thing that, fear motivates me. Like, what if these habits that I've worked so hard on don't osmosisly go over to my kids? That scares the shit out of me. Like, I'm 42 now. Like, I'm starting to think way more about my health. Like, I want to be 85 in good mental clarity and feeling good. So am I fueling my brain properly? you know, I mean, so I think those things motivate me. Do I think that people that have more money tend to have more possibility of making more leverageable impact? Yeah, I do. I do. So I've started up-leveling my money goal, and I'm rethinking about how I think about some things, and I'm still working through on them. But to where I used to have a number that if I hit that number, I'd be happy the rest of my life, and I'm still not at the number, but like I'd be done. I'd never have to worry about money ever again. But now I just kind of I 2.5x that number because I think I was under indexing possibility. And so my belief system is the people I see who are giving the most tend to be crushing it in business. Like the people who are making the biggest impacts are simultaneously the biggest thinkers as an entrepreneur. So where sometimes I've lulled myself into just thinking cash flow business and making good lifestyle business. So some of the things we're working on behind the scenes, plus with No Foods, are definitely bigger thinking, billion-dollar disruptive endeavors. So lately I've been talking to a lot of super highly talented people and throwing, you know, putting the seeds of where's the billion-dollar disruption idea that we as a small team can start and impact and utilize the skill sets we have. Because right now I think there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. It's unreal. So yeah, so that all that motivates me, you know. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, it was really helpful. So what books do you read?
Yeah, great question. I mean, right now, sadly, I haven't been reading as much as I should be. To be honest with you, I'm listening to a ton of podcasts. So there, I mean, like, you know.
Okay, just give the name of one podcast.
Well, this is too cliche-ish. I mean, if I say Tim Ferriss, everyone's like, you know, oh my God, Tim Ferriss show.
Everybody listens to that, yeah.
No, it's still a good podcast.
It's awesome, yeah.
It's a great podcast. Tim's great for a lot of reasons. I think he was a trailblazer for a lot of things, especially like, and Joe Rogan is too. Like, I think they do some good. I really like the multi-topical, long-form podcasts. Like we're like right now we're talking about a lot of things, right? But I think James Altucher, I think, has every few of his episodes are really cool. There's a couple of guys, like for people who are interested in internet marketing, like 10K a Day podcast is I don't know the dude's name. Ryan Moran has a really good podcast, Freedom Fastlane. And then you know who's awesome, who I haven't been listening to lately, is Mike Rowe. Like he's awesome, the guy from Dirtiest Jobs. He does like a 7-minute story podcast. It's kind of like it kind of, you know, what's that old guy's name is, like, who used to do like, and that was how, or and that was the rest of the story, like from old school, like our parents probably listened to it.
Yeah, I know that radio personality. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's the radio personality. So he does something similar to that, where he starts telling a story and you don't know the punchline to the end of the story. So that's really, I like that kind of format. Yeah. So.
Okay, well, so just back to the books real quick. What was the most impactful book? I mean, obviously, I think we're all like-minded. We all read a lot of these self-improvement books, the Power of the Mind books. What was your?
I mean, I think like How to Win Friends, Influence People, and Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich when I was younger were really impactful.
It was Paul Harvey.
Yeah, Paul Harvey, right?
I had to look it up.
Yeah. Those would actually be good stories to go back and probably listen to. There was a book called Mastery by a guy named Tim Piering, Piering, that I read after going to a Jack Canfield seminar when I was like 23. Jack Canfield's one of the co-authors of Chicken Soup for the Soul. That led me to learning neuro-linguistic programming and Ericksonian hypnosis, as well as Tony Robbins during that time frame. And so from the ages of like 23, like 28, I was so deep into all that stuff. And what I didn't understand during that time was that, you know, like, it doesn't matter how good you become at, you know, neuro-linguistic programming or hypnosis or mindset stuff. If you don't know how to market and promote yourself, you're going to be broke, right? So a lot of Dan Kennedy stuff was great from books. But I mean, I like a lot of you guys. Like, I'll buy a lot of books and just read a couple chapters. What about each one of you? Give me one book that's been most impactful.
The Master Key System. I just read this about. Have you read this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I'm on. Okay, I live in Los Angeles, so I have to spend a lot of time in my car. So I have that Audible app, and I'm on my third round on this book. Like I'm listening to it for the third time in just a few months. That's probably one. That's my newest one, but
this one's
great.
The Power of Your Subconscious Mind.
Yeah,
Joseph Murphy.
Well, that's an older book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just mind blowing.
Awesome.
It is mind blowing.
Unlock your master key to success. I mean, it's wow. Enjoyed that a lot.
How about you, Fletch?
I've got a pile of books over here on the floor. I was like, okay, so what do I pick?
Right?
Yeah. Is that a picture of my family right behind you? My ebook?
Oh, no, don't think so. I may have missed that, but
Right, you're good. You're good.
no, a lot of what I kind of study and work in now are like cognitive illusions, areas where we're predictably making poor decisions and bad choices and blind to, what's really going on and things like that. So that's kind of the topic that I'm on and most passionate about right now, which is kind of part of why this is kind of coming together and part of the contribution that I am trying to bring to it, which is helping people actually see what's going on for themselves and for, kind of a greater sense of well-being and marketability and all that kind of thing. So
awesome. One of my friends just came out with a book, Tim Larkin. Are you guys familiar with Tim at all? He's like the CEO and founder of Target Focus Training. I think it's called like the Tool of Violence. So this guy spent the last like 26 years training people on, like he had an injury while going through BUD/S, and he stayed in and trained special forces on hand-to-hand combat. And then he's gone and developed he trains civilians, he trains, amazing people. But when you talk about like cognitive and like awareness, he talks about like the difference between social violence and aggravation versus asocial, and how, like, if you and I got in an argument, we would be having a social aggression towards each other, where there's certain rules, right? Like I'm not gonna. I mean, even we got in a fist fight, I'm not trying to kill somebody, right? And so his whole system is based on asocial violence, and meaning somebody who is out to really harm somebody can go from 0 to say 100 from a violence perspective, like that, where most human beings who get in arguments and like even if they get in a scuffle, it's very incremental. It could be completely diffused. So that's a new book that's out that I'd recommend. I haven't read it. I've listened to all the interviews. I had him on my podcast. Tim's a great guy. So
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
we had a guy. We had a Christian evangelist guy at my last seminar. He's this really super successful businessman. He didn't talk about his evangelism, but he had a really neat book called Fruit of Your Seeds, or Seeds of Your Fruit. His name was I'll think of his name here. And this is a book I would not normally read. I thought it was interesting. So I'm really cool. Like if you gave me something that doesn't really make sense, I like skimming things, and I like seeing like, okay, is it applicable in some weird way? And can it expand my filter so I have a different grasp and different, worldview, so yeah.
All right. I don't have any more. I mean, I do. I have tons of questions, but I think, it's been an hour and 20 minutes. I know you're a busy man.
And we value your time.
Ha! No, we're good. Good. Well, what's one last question? Let's do one last question.
Well, I want to jump in on maybe closing the loop or helping to triangulate a little bit more. One of the things I've drawn on a lot as an adult, or close to an adult as I guess I can be right now. I played competitive team sports through college. It sounds like you did as well. Yeah. And there's a lot that I draw from there in my understanding of teamwork, but also competitiveness and how those fit together. Is that something that you think a lot about, or could you speak about that and how fitness plays into, that kind of concept and having people around you? And
oh God, I could. Okay, now you just open up a can of worms. Okay. So I still coach. Like, so I coach my 11 and 10-year-olds, and then like last night I was in the gym. They asked me to coach 18-year-olds, girls, and just they needed a sub for a coach, and it was and I have a 13-year-old who I spend a lot of time with, and I've mentored her and coached her, and I draw on the things that I got from some of my coaches and mentors during that period of time and those experiences almost every day. Now. So that's number one. Number two is about 3 years ago, I remember sitting in my basement and popped up on YouTube was this video of it was called Kokoro Camp. Kokoro, like Kokoro camp. And it was all these professional CrossFit athletes doing Kokoro Camp. And it was crazy. It was like Hell Week for these civilians and these athletes. And so I looked into it, and it's like a 50 to 54 hour civilian mini Hell Week experience. And, you know, I remember it vividly. I sat there with my son and watched like every single episode. You know, it's crazy in the basement. And frankly, it scared the shit out of me. Scared me to death. So a couple years went by, and this thing would never leave me. It just kept coming up. Like, yeah, and so I talked to my wife. The first time I brought up doing it was probably bad timing because she was pregnant with the twins. And I remember driving. I was like, well, she's like, well, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, I want to go do Kokoro Camp, you know. So she started crying. She's like, what are you thinking? You're going to go kill yourself. So now that's like 50 hours straight. You don't sleep, nothing. You're getting trained by these Navy SEALs. And so I brought it up again in August, right before my 40th birthday. We were in Colorado. And I said, now you guys are big into The Secret and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So on the airplane, it was Southwest, and usually we get boarded, but there's like, when we travel, it's like 10 of us, we get boarded with family board. So we're usually on the airplane. Something weird happened where we actually got bumped to like, we were the last people on the airplane, like because they needed to re-ticket something with the babies. And all this chaos was going on when we were trying to get seated. And I remember I had I think my son in my arms, and I looked down, and there's a guy sitting right there, and he's got Mark Devine's book, who's the founder of SEAL Fit, who started Kokoro Camp. Like, this book's not I mean, it's sort of, I think it was a bestseller, but like, there's a lot of books that are bestsellers that no one knows about. Right. But here's a guy sitting right there, he's reading the book. And I remember like time slowed down. I remember just like as the chaos is happening, they're trying to find seats. My wife's almost in tears, like, oh my God, you know, like, the lady's trying to move people. And I just remember like looking at him like, that's an awesome book, isn't it? He's like, yeah, it's amazing. I remember sitting down, and I remember like, so it wasn't like, but another day or 2 days later that while my wife and I were walking down the mountain, I said to her, I go, hey, you know, and she was behind me. I said to her, I go, you know, I'm gonna have to get my ankles a lot stronger if I'm ever going to do Kokoro. Because I had gym shoes on. I didn't know you were supposed to wear like, you know, ankle supporting boots and stuff when you walk up mountains. And she said to me, she goes, if you really want to do it, I'll support you. Well, I signed up within the next 45 minutes. We got inside the townhouse. I signed up. Now, here's what I want to share with you. So I had already been doing like CrossFit, you know, 1 class a day, 4 to 5 days a week. And I originally was going to go to like the February Kokoro, but it was mid-August. After 2 weeks of training, my wife was going to kill me because I started training like a madman, double sessions, doing some really hard things. And I had a buddy of mine who had done it, and I called him up after about a month. I was like, getting around a month of training. I was like, look, man, I can't keep this like intensity up for my family life, everything like that till February. I'm like, do you think I could do, the last event was end of October. I'm like, do you really think I could walk in on 2 months training and be prepped for this? And he asked me a couple questions and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I think you can. So, but I had to convince myself. So I designed a couple workouts that were ridiculously hard. And one of them was, I went to like Cal Beach here in Chicago, and I wore full fatigues, had my stuff on, and I had to do 1,000 burpees in the sand. And
Are you kidding me?
and every like 25 burpees, I'd run like say 100 yards and then jump in the water, jump back out, do the burpees. And it took me I think just under 3 hours or just a little over 3 hours. And then there was a couple other things. Like one was like to do Murph full. Are you guys familiar with what Murph is? The workout, like a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 body squats, followed by a mile run. But you got a 25-pound rucksack on your back during the whole thing. And the criteria I had to do was like under an hour, and it was unbroken. So people who are CrossFitters would understand what that means. So I'm gonna leave that be. But I remember on my last mile run, because I left the gym, the mile could take anywhere between 9 to 10 minutes at that point in the thing after working for pretty hard. And I remember just some of this. I'll share this with. I had a brother pass away who was before I was even born, and I felt his presence come over my body when I was halfway back, and because I was in so much pain, my lungs were burning, and I just still remember in Mark Divine teaches you a great way to create like a sacred space in your head when you're going through those pains. And I had so much emotional investment on beating an hour, like, because it was my criteria. Like, if I can do this, I can do Kokoro. Same thing with 1,000 burpees, right? Like, I created these false things, but they were real for me. And I just remember the spiritual experience I had, that when I got back, I made it by like a minute and a half, but I bawled like a little baby. And it was great. And then I went to Kokoro, and I had a great experience. I got sick during it. It was awesome. It was horrible. And I mean, I had another experience, like where I was puking and had, and all stuff. And my body came back to me. It was a really spiritual experience. And so, like, when you ask, do I reflect on those things? Yes. And I've also up-leveled that reflection to where now I have another anchor point with Kokoro. I had another anchor point with 29029. And so right now in my life, I'm trying to figure out other physical things, because what I figured out was most adults are being taught to become sedentary and to not challenge themselves. That your best athletic days were in college or high school or grade school, right? And keeping this like really positive is. I had a couple guys say to me at like we were at like a parish thing, and they're like, Ed, you should do something for the boys to help their mental toughness, like something physical. We'll do something really hard physically. and they're right? But what I said to them was, I was like, yeah, maybe we should start with the dads. Let's go do something really freaking hard. When's the last time these guys, and I'm not putting people on the spot, like, when is the last time that these guys suffered so they had to experience all those inner voices that would limit you and tell you can't do this and all that stuff, and then to feel the true power of like F that, I got this, I can do this shit all day long. Like, you go hide in your corner. Those voices were never mine, and I'm not giving you, I'm not giving you power. Like, it's something really powerful there. So yeah, I tap into that stuff. And then on another level too is like with kids. Like, I mean, I remember times where like I had a kid puking in our bed like for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours straight, and my wife was sick, and every 15 minutes she's getting up puking. Was that easy? Hell no. But here's something I learned. The human spirit can endeavor things if they could stay present and they could keep chunking things down to, where am I at right now? Control my breath. Say something positive, make this moment work. And you can do that. I said to my daughter the other day, we were training for about 90 minutes. She's 13 in volleyball. Just working one-on-one, teaching her the game. And we had like 5 minutes left. And I looked at her. She was tired. She was working hard. She was doing great. And I looked at her flat out. I said, look, you can do this shit all day long. I don't think I swore. I said, your body's telling you you're tired. but you could do this all day long if you had to. Like, this is easy. This is something that's easy for you. This ain't hard. Your body's just telling you that because your body's not used to it. Just tell your body you're the master of your body. Your body can, you know. And so that's the kind of stuff that I think drives me. As you can tell, this is probably the most excited I've been about the whole interview, because this is stuff that, like, I think about. Like, I was on the Peloton for 30 minutes and I had a short day, and I was like, you know, it'd be great to throw the rucksack on, do an hour, because I know your body will adapt to that threshold. It just will. I'm telling you, anybody who's listening to this, who's struggling with their weight, or they're trying to figure out mentally how to not feel broken, or they're like, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm whatever, go do something freaking hard. You will re-engage yourself and your hormones, your energy. You know, the other thing I like telling people on this front, and I don't consider myself like a fitness expert at all. So but like, the rule, like when it comes to fitness or working out, at least how I operate, is just get myself in the environment with everybody else who's working out, even if I don't want to be there. And I will, by osmosis, start moving with them, you know, get in the class. So yeah, I mean, I can go on and on about this stuff. This is where, yeah, this stuff drives me. This is the stuff that really excites me more than ever. And, you know, yeah.
29029.com. That's how I climb them out with you.
Yeah, yeah, and more importantly, you get to climb with Jesse and all these. I mean, the people that he attracts in his circle are pretty amazing.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, man. My mind is blown. I could talk all day long.
By far, one of our better.
We've
We've done some fun ones, but this is fascinating stuff.
All right, man.
We'll wrap it up.
Awesome.
I'll be in touch with you on your other project. You know, I thought of something. Actually, I'll talk to you about it offline. I know this is. You got anything else on your end over there?
I mean, no. I mean, like we have I have my podcast at edokeefeshow.com. edokeefeshow.com. Probably when this comes out, you know, we should have one of our new seminars that we're doing more of is called trafficmasterylive.com, because we're teaching people how to generate traffic to their web source. And with that, obviously, we teach them how to optimize their sites as well. It's really exciting. And then go check out No Foods, KNOW foods.com.
You need to. I'm a huge fan. Mick will start ordering it today. I promise you. You'll see his email come through. It's awesome stuff. And I actually, just for the viewers out there, I have attended some of Ed's stuff, and it is some of his conferences in it. It's absolutely awesome. It's very engaging. He's very good at what he does. Obviously, we wanted to do the show with him partly because of that. It was a great experience for me. I'm so pissed at myself for not hitting the one at Spanx, but I'm going to hit the next one.
All right. Awesome.
And I got to step out. I have a plane to catch. So bye.
All right. See you, brother.
Thank you so much.
See ya.
See ya.
Fletch, how you doing? You good?
Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, great stuff, Ed. I really appreciate it. I am glad I spent as much time really preparing and getting to know where this could go, where you could take people and connect dots. And really thank you so much for sharing as much as you did personally, as well as, you know, constructive frameworks that people can use to get to know you and themselves better, probably.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. All right, have a great one, guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Ed. Take care.
Bye-bye.